I'm Dana, and welcome back to Tuesday Tips for Leaders of Volunteers. And this week we're talking about a very big question that everyone in the volunteer engagement sector has to ask themselves all the time, and that is, why do people volunteer? Now, there are entire books and conference tracks and research papers on this subject that go into very, very, very deep detail. I think the easiest way to think about it, and I've talked to colleagues over the years and decades, and I feel like, well, people volunteer because they want to. Something about the work that you're offering, the roles, the tasks, the opportunities, resonates with them on a really deep level. They connect with the why of the agency. So if you are accurately describing in all of your collateral and community engagement and volunteer recruitment listings and material, if you are accurately describing the why of the organization's mission, why this particular volunteer role is important to support that mission, and let people choose their own very individual why that resonates with that. If you accurately set and meet expectations in describing the opportunity as much as possible in that recruitment material, then that's going to help the volunteers' why and the agency's why match up more accurately, and that's going to save you time, your staff time, and it's going to save volunteer time, and it's going to save a lot of frustration for everyone down the line that you're finding the right fit of person for the right role with your organization. Now, again, I've talked in past Tuesday Tips videos and other longer priceless advice interviews about getting the right match, and you don't just want to recruit, worry about recruitment and retention as an isolated thing. We want to still have a very holistic approach, but thinking about the why of the volunteer, it's up to them to understand the why of the agency and do that self-selection and do that work rather than trying to get to an audience that just is never going to connect with or understand the work that your agency is doing, because all the work we do is so different from each other all the time. The common denominator being that people do want to have comfort, convenience, and connection to the work they're doing as a volunteer, whether that's a very short little drop-in episodic opportunity for a few hours or a few days, or for longer projects that might take weeks or months or years, or a recurring role that is regularly scheduled. So whatever the range of volunteer opportunities, if they're accurately described, you're setting and meeting what's expected of the volunteer, what's expected of the agency to support their work and resource their work as a volunteer, then people will make the right choices, and you'll spend a lot less time kind of screening and sorting through people who aren't the correct match right out of the gate. My favorite example of adjusting a listing to better reflect the why, as well as the what and the how of a volunteer opportunity to kind of get better recruitment and retention around it, is the story of penguin chick socialization. If you've never worked in a zoo or aquarium or in wildlife rescue with penguins, let me tell you, they're very, very cute as chicks, but if they are not socialized to human interaction, depending on if they're in a wildlife rescue organization, or they can't be released back to the wild, or they are captive bred in a zoo or aquarium, even as little chicks, they have to have a lot of human contact and socialization, just like, a puppy or lots of other creatures, or they can be harder to handle or even more aggressive as adults. And the affectionate term that we called penguins was stabby footballs, because they can really do damage with their beak to their keepers and caretakers and other volunteers if they're not properly socialized to being a little bit handled for medical stuff as a chick. So I was working with a zoo, and I came on board, and I was kind of reevaluating where the volunteer programs were and what might need to be updated. And one of the problems that was told to me is, like, we have this penguin chick socialization program, but people come once and they never come back. So we constantly have open shifts, and staff has to take extra time because we don't have enough volunteers to do this. I was like, okay, let me take a look at the materials. Well, all that the recruitment material said was, cuddle baby penguins, sign up here. Like, that sounds great. Of course, a lot of people would want to cuddle baby penguins. That sounds amazing and cute. However, the reality is that penguins eat fish and they smell like fish, and everything that comes out of their bodies at all ends smells like fish and is very smelly and gross. The environment that you're in to socialize the penguins is a cold, damp, wet cement room. So sitting on cold, damp cement, being covered in, yes, very cute penguin chicks, but pretty bad smelling by the end of that 2-hour volunteer shift. That's what was making people not come back, because they didn't know what to expect. They didn't understand what was going to happen in the task and during the shift, so they couldn't prepare for it and they couldn't self-select for it. So just changing that listing to say, we've got some rubber mats that we've put down to be extra comfortable, but you are sitting in a cold, damp room, which is the right temperature for the penguins. And we have some ponchos available, but we encourage people to wear grubby clothes that you don't mind, you know, getting smelly or messy, like old yard work clothes or clothes that you've done paint work with. And just kind of letting people know what they needed to bring, what they needed to wear to be comfortable, what it was going to be like, and what the zoo was doing to help support them and make them as comfortable as possible. Then we did start to have a waiting list pretty soon, because everyone who thought this is only going to be a really fun, easy, comfortable thing understood that, oh, there's a little bit perhaps of physical discomfort involved, or there's a smelliness to this, or there's an after effect, but it's worth it because this is a really wonderful, unique, interesting experience, and it's important to the health of the animal and the health of the species that they grow to be adults that can be handled in an emergency or medical situation, or just to be checked over by the keepers and caretakers. So the story of the stabby penguins, I think, really illustrates how you can dial in the why of volunteers and give them enough information to self-select and kind of screen themselves with the why of the agency and the why of the volunteer role. So that's my Tuesday tip around why do people volunteer. Lots more tips and tricks and interviews on the channel, so please like and subscribe, and I will link to some deeper research on the why of volunteer engagement in the comments below. So I hope to see you next time. Take care.